The palace of Valeris Prime stood silent that night. Its silver towers, which once glowed with light and laughter, now felt like empty monuments of grief. The royal family had gathered in the chamber of their only daughter, Princess Lyra, who lay upon a crystal bed surrounded by dying light. Her body, once full of color and energy, was fading. The glow that marked her alien kind was dimming from her veins, and her breathing grew weaker with every hour. The healers had done everything possible. Ancient medicine, sacred energy, royal science, and all had failed. The sickness had come from her last mission to the human world, Earth. A strange infection, something that her people's biology could not understand. For months her body had fought it, but now she was losing. Her father, King Thalrin, stood near her, his silver crown heavy on his trembling head. "There must be a way," he whispered, voice full of fear. "There must be something left we can do." The royal healer lowered his head. "We tried everything, my king. The human world's touch brought the sickness. There is no cure." At those words, silence filled the chamber. The queen began to cry quietly, her glowing tears falling onto her daughter's cold hand. Servants stood motionless, their hearts heavy. Outside, the stars themselves seemed to dim, as if mourning the fall of their brightest princess. Then a strange voice spoke at the door. I can try." Everyone turned. A human stood there, small, fragile-looking, dressed in a worn brown jacket. His name was Elias Rowe, a human medic who had once served during the Galactic relief wars. His record said he had saved both human and alien lives without fear or bias. The royal guards almost laughed when they saw him. "A human?" one hissed. "You think your earth medicine can heal our princess?" Elias did not flinch. "Maybe not," he said quietly. "But I've seen people come back when everyone gave up on them. Sometimes, all they need is someone to hold on to." The king wanted to send him away, but when he looked at his daughter's pale face, he hesitated. Hope was a dangerous thing, yet he could not let it die. "Let him in," Thalrin finally said. Inside the glowing chamber, Elias walked slowly toward the crystal bed. He had never seen anything so beautiful or so fragile. The princess's skin shone faintly like moonlight under water, but her pulse was fading. Machines around her beeped softly as if whispering her goodbye. Elias took a deep breath and reached for her hand. "Hey, princess," he said softly. "My name's Elias. I don't know if you can hear me, but I'm here now." Her fingers were cold like stone. Yet the moment he touched her, a spark passed between them. He gasped. A soft warmth spread from his fingertips to her arm, like sunlight through glass. The glow inside her veins flickered, weak at first, then stronger. The healers watching from behind the glass gasped. "What is that?" "Her energy readings are rising." Elias didn't hear them. He only saw her breathing steady, her lips moving slightly as if trying to speak. "It's okay," he whispered again. "You're not alone." Her body glowed brighter. The dying light in her chest flared with new life. The machines around her began to hum louder, showing impossible numbers. And then, slowly, the princess opened her eyes. Her gaze met his. The glow in her eyes reflected him, the strange human who had reached out when no one else could. Her lips parted and a weak breath escaped. "Human," she whispered. "Your touch. It doesn't hurt." Outside the chamber, the royal family and all the healers stood frozen in disbelief. The queen covered her mouth, tears running down her glowing cheeks. The king whispered in awe. He touched her, and she started to heal. The next morning, the palace was no longer silent. Word spread like wildfire. The princess had opened her eyes. After months of darkness, the royal halls were filled with cautious hope. Yet no one could understand what had happened. Every healer, every scientist, every priest of the light tried to explain it, but none could. Only one truth remained. It started when the human touched her. Princess Lyra rested beneath the soft glow of the healing chamber, her eyes weak but alive. Her father sat beside her, staring at her face as if afraid she might disappear again. The royal healers ran scans and whispered, confused. "Her energy patterns. They are changing. It's as if something foreign, something human is helping her heal." King Thalrin turned to Elias, the human who had done the impossible. "What did you do to her?" His voice was sharp, filled with both fear and wonder. Elias shook his head. "I don't know, Your Majesty. I just held her hand. Maybe she felt something. Maybe she didn't want to give up." The king frowned. You touched her once and she healed. Is this some trick? Elias met his gaze calmly. No trick. Sometimes, Your Majesty, the body needs more than medicine. It needs warmth. It needs someone who believes it can live. Those words made the Queen's eyes soften. She had seen her husband's strength break during the long months of watching their daughter fade. Now a fragile human stood before them, speaking as if life was something simple, something you could give with a touch. That evening, the princess woke fully for the first time. Her voice was faint, but it filled the chamber like music. Where is he? She asked. Elias stepped forward, hesitant. I'm here. Her eyes turned to him, glowing faintly with silver light. You saved me. I felt your warmth. It was like the stars listened to you, Elias smiled gently. I don't think the stars listened to me, Princess. Maybe they just decided it wasn't your time yet. She smiled back weakly. That small smile made the Queen burst into quiet tears. The royal healers, however, were unsettled. They whispered among themselves. Human contact might be influencing her energy field. It could be dangerous. We should separate them and study this effect. But the princess refused. No, she said firmly. When he is near, I feel light again. Her father hesitated. He could not argue with what he saw. Against all reason, his daughter was recovering. So he allowed Elias to stay. The human medic remained by her side, feeding her small meals, checking her pulse, talking softly about his home world. Each day, she grew stronger. The color returned to her skin. The glow in her veins pulsed brighter. But something else was happening too. The connection between them deepened. One night, as the stars shone through the crystal dome, Lyra looked at Elias and said softly, Your world is full of pain, yet you still hope. Why? Elias looked at her, his eyes tired but warm. Because hope is what makes us human. We fight, we break, but we keep going. Maybe that's what you felt through my touch. She was silent for a long moment, then whispered, Maybe that's what healing really is. From that night on, she began to heal faster. The healers recorded impossible data. Her body was adapting, reshaping, even absorbing parts of human energy patterns from Elias. The Queen watched in awe. The king, though proud, was restless. If this continues, he said to his council, she will not only heal, she will change. And he was right. The princess's glow no longer matched that of her kind. It was softer, warmer, mixed with something undeniably human. Days turned into weeks, and the palace that once echoed with sorrow now glowed again with life. The princess was healing, walking slowly through the gardens with light in her eyes. Every step she took was a miracle. Her people rejoiced, yet deep inside the royal court whispers grew like shadows in the light. They called meetings behind closed doors. Old council members, royal scholars, and generals of the Valar dominion sat together, speaking in low, worried tones. The human's presence is unnatural, said one elder. She is not the same as before. Her energy has changed. Another added, If his touch can heal, what else can it do? What if it can control? King Thalrin listened in silence, torn between love for his daughter and loyalty to his people. His heart knew what he had seen. Elias's presence brought Lyra back to life. But his mind, trained by years of duty and fear of weakness, couldn't ignore the danger their advisor spoke of. Finally, he said softly, Find out the truth. Watch him closely, but do not harm him, not yet. Meanwhile, Elias continued to spend his days beside the princess. He never asked for reward or status. He simply stayed, helping her rebuild her strength. Sometimes they laughed together under the glowing trees of the royal garden. Other times they sat in silence, listening to the soft hum of alien birds. One evening she looked at him and said, Do humans believe in destiny? Elias smiled faintly. We believe in choices more than destiny. Life gives us pain, but we choose what to do with it. Lyra lowered her gaze. I used to believe everything was written by the stars. But now, I think you changed my fate. He laughed softly. I didn't change it, princess. You just decided to live. Again, her heart warmed at his words, but unknown to them, hidden eyes were watching. A silent drone above the trees, sent by the royal council to observe their every move. That night, the council gathered again. They showed the king a recording. Lyra's light glowing brighter every time she touched Elias's hand. You see, said the head scholar, her essence is merging with his. She is becoming part human. If this continues, she may no longer be one of us. The king's face turned pale. She would still be my daughter. Your Majesty, the general said firmly, a ruler cannot ignore what the people will see. A princess who carries human energy, they will call her corrupted. The alliance with Earth is already fragile. This could destroy it completely. The queen spoke suddenly, her voice trembling with emotion. You speak of politics while our daughter lives again. Is that not worth everything? But the king could not answer. He looked out the window at the stars, and for the first time in his reign, he felt powerless. The next morning, soldiers came to Elias's quarters. The king requests your presence, they said. When Elias entered the throne room, the air was cold. The king sat tall on his silver throne, his eyes heavy with sorrow. Human, he began, you have done what no one could. You gave my daughter life, but your presence now endangers her. Elias's brows furrowed. Endangers her? I've done nothing but help. She is changing, the king said. Her body carries your energy. Our healers say her form may never return to what it was. The council fears what this could mean for our people. Elias stood silent for a moment, then spoke quietly. If healing her means she's different now, then maybe that's not something to fear. Maybe it's something new. The king's expression tightened. You speak boldly for a human. Elias met his gaze. I speak as someone who's seen death, and I'd rather see her changed than buried. The queen closed her eyes, tears escaping. The king looked away, his heart torn. You will remain in the palace under watch until we decide what must be done. That night, when Elias returned to his room, he found a small figure waiting, Princess Lyra. Her light shimmered faintly in the darkness. They want to send you away, she said softly. Tears forming in her eyes, he nodded slowly. I know. Her hand trembled as she reached for his. If they take you from me, I will fade again. He took her hand gently, his voice calm but firm. Then we'll find a way, no matter what they decide. And as their hands touched, the same light filled the room again, brighter than before, warm and alive. The stars outside seemed to pulse with it, as if the universe itself was listening. But deep within the palace walls, someone else was watching that light and whispering a warning. The human is becoming too close. He must be stopped. The next few days felt heavy inside the palace. What was once filled with hope had now become a place of quiet tension. Every smile faded when Elias walked by. Every whisper stopped when the princess entered the room. The council had decided the human's influence was dangerous and his bond with the princess had to end. Elias felt it in the air. Guards followed him wherever he went. The warm greetings of the servants had turned into nervous silence. Even the queen avoided his eyes now, afraid that someone might accuse her of sympathy. He didn't care for honor or reward. He only wanted to see Lyra smile, the same smile that gave him strength when he thought he had none left. But each time he saw her, he also saw the fear in her face, fear of losing him again. That night, the king summoned Elias to the royal chamber. The throne room was dimly lit, shadows stretching across the floor like chains. King Thalrin's voice was low and cold. Human, you will leave Valaris Prime tomorrow. Your presence has become a threat to my daughter's future. Elias stood quietly for a long moment. If I leave, he said softly, she will fall sick again. That is not your concern, the king said sharply. You have already changed too much in her. My daughter must remain Valar, not something in between. Elias took a slow breath, his heart tightening. With respect, Your Majesty, maybe what she's becoming is something greater. The king's eyes flashed with anger. Enough, you do not understand our kind. You are dismissed. Two guards stepped forward and seized Elias's arms. He didn't fight back. He only whispered as they dragged him away. Tell her I never meant to hurt her. When the princess found out, she ran to her father's chamber, her light flickering wildly. You can't do this, she cried. He saved me. Without him, I'll die again. King Thalrin's heart trembled at her words, but his voice stayed cold. You are my daughter, Lyra, and your duty is to your people. The human has done enough. You must let him go. Her voice broke. Duty? What is duty without life? Without love? He turned away. You speak like a child. Tears glimmered in her glowing eyes. Then I would rather be a child than a heartless ruler. She ran out before he could stop her. That night, Elias was locked inside a guarded chamber. He sat on the cold floor, his thoughts heavy. Through the small window, he could see the twin moons of Valaris shining above the city. Guess this is how it ends, he whispered to himself. A human heals a princess and gets caged for it. A soft sound made him turn. The door slid open, and there she was. Princess Lyra, her robe glowing faintly in the darkness. You shouldn't be here, Elias said quietly. They'll punish you. She stepped closer. Let them. I won't lose you again. He sighed, trying to smile. You're stronger now. You don't need me. Her eyes filled with tears. Don't you understand? The strength I have comes from you. When you touched me, it wasn't just my body that healed. It was my heart. You gave me something our kind had forgotten, the will to live. Elias looked down, his throat tight. Lyra, if I stay, they'll come for me. For you. Then we'll run, she said suddenly. There are places beyond the Dominion. Worlds where no one will find us. He shook his head gently. You can't run from who you are, Princess. But before he could say more, she stepped forward and placed her hand over his chest. Her glow brightened, spreading warmth across the room. Then let them come, she whispered, because I'll never let them take away the one who saved me. Outside, alarms began to echo through the palace. Guards rushed toward the royal prison wing. Inside, a blinding light burst through the windows, carrying a mix of silver and human warmth, swirling together as one. And for the first time in Valaris history, an alien princess and a human stood side by side against the will of a throne. Their bond was no longer a mystery. It was a revolution. The palace alarms screamed across the night sky. Red warning lights flashed over the silver towers as guards ran through every corridor. The king's voice echoed through the royal channels. Find the human. Find my daughter! But Princess Lyra and Elias were already running through the gardens of glowing crystal trees, their footsteps echoing softly on the silver path. Her hand was in his, glowing faintly, lighting their way through the darkness. Are you sure about this? Elias whispered as they reached the outer gate. Lyra nodded, her eyes full of fire. If I stay, they'll lock me away again. If you leave, I'll die again. I'd rather face the stars with you than live behind walls. Elias's heart tightened at her words. He had seen courage in many forms. Soldiers on battlefields, doctors under fire, but never like this. She wasn't just escaping a palace. She was escaping a cage built by fear and tradition. They reached the flight bay where small ships were kept for royal travel. Lyra moved quickly, entering a code on the console. My mother used to bring me here when I was little, she said softly. She said the stars were our destiny. The gates opened with a hiss, revealing a sleek silver ship. Elias stared in awe. You sure you can fly that thing? She smiled faintly. Can you breathe? Before he could answer, soldiers burst into the room. Stop them! Shouted the captain. Lyra and Elias rushed into the ship as laser fire lit up the hangar. Elias slammed the door shut while Lyra started the engines. The ship trembled, then roared to life. With one final glance at the palace, her home, her prison, she whispered, Goodbye, Father. The ship shot upward, breaking through the storm of light. In seconds, they were in open space, leaving Valaris Prime behind. The stars stretched out before them, endless, beautiful, and free. Inside the ship, silence finally returned. The hum of the engines was the only sound. Elias looked at Lyra. We actually did it. She laughed softly, tears glimmering in her eyes. We did, but her laughter faded when she saw the sadness in his face. You're thinking about them, aren't you? Elias nodded slowly. Your family will see this as betrayal. They'll understand one day, she said gently, when they see what love can create, not destroy. He smiled faintly. You talk like a poet, Princess. She looked out the window, her glowing reflection blending with the stars. Maybe humans taught me that. For hours they flew through the vast emptiness of space. Lyra's body, once fragile, now pulsed with strength. But there was something more. A new kind of energy, one the Valar had never known. It wasn't just her own light anymore. It was something shared between her and Elias. As the ship drifted past a nebula of blue mist, Elias noticed her hands trembling. Are you okay? She shook her head slightly. It's changing inside me. The light feels different, stronger, but I don't know if it's safe. He took her hands gently. Then we'll face it together. The moment their skin touched, the cabin filled with soft light. Her veins shimmered brighter and his eyes widened. The same warmth he had felt the first time now returned, but stronger. wrapping around them like invisible wings. Elias could feel her heartbeat in sync with his. It wasn't human or velar anymore. It was something new, something alive with both worlds. "Elias," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Do you feel it?" He nodded. "Yeah, it's like the universe is breathing with us." The glow spread across the ship, dancing along the walls like liquid starlight. For a brief moment, time itself seemed to slow. Outside the window, the stars bent slightly as if the universe bowed to their bond. Then it faded, leaving a peaceful silence behind. Lyra looked at him, tears falling softly down her cheeks. Maybe this is what healing really means, not just living again, but becoming something new together. Elias brushed a tear from her face. "Then let's live this new life, whatever it becomes." And as the ship drifted quietly through the glowing trails of the stars, two hearts, one human, one alien, beat together for the first time in the history of both their worlds. For a few days, the stars felt peaceful. The small silver ship drifted quietly through deep space, carrying only two souls, one human, one alien, bound by something greater than either could explain. Elias and Princess Lyra lived like travelers of fate, sharing stories, laughter, and small silences that meant everything, but peace is never forever, not when the galaxy watches. Far behind them, the royal fleet of Valaris Prime spread across the stars like wings of fire. The king had ordered the hunt himself. "Bring my daughter home," he said, his voice cold but broken. "Alive and unharmed." He did not mention the human, but everyone understood. The queen had wept as she watched the ships leave. "You'll lose her again," she whispered to her husband. But the king only looked toward the horizon. "No," he said, "I will save her, even from herself." Inside the small ship, Lyra stared at the galaxy map. "They'll come for us soon," she said quietly. "My father doesn't give up easily." Elias adjusted a few switches, trying to keep his voice calm. "Then we'll stay ahead of them. I've been hunted before and by worse things than kings." She looked at him, curious. "You've lived a hard life, haven't you?" He smiled faintly. "War does that, but you make me forget the noise." Her heart softened at his words. She reached out, touching his hand. The familiar warmth filled the space between them again. But this time it was different, brighter, stronger, like the stars themselves responded. The ship's panels flickered and the navigation lights changed color, glowing softly gold. "What's happening?" she asked, startled. Elias frowned. "I don't know. It's reacting to us." Lyra closed her eyes and focused. The light in her body began to flow like living energy, merging with his heartbeat. The ship's engines pulsed as if alive. They were connected, not just to each other but to the world around them. And somewhere in that bond the ship moved, not by fuel or control, but by will. It jumped through the stars faster than any human or alien craft could travel. When they stopped, they were surrounded by silence. A glowing nebula stretched outside, painting the ship in soft blue light. Lyra opened her eyes slowly. We moved through hyperspace without engines," she whispered. Elias stared at her in awe. "You did that?" She shook her head gently. "We did that. It's our energy. It's like the universe listens when we're together." For a long time they simply sat there, watching the light dance outside, feeling the stillness of space. But peace didn't last. A sudden alarm filled the cabin. "Multiple ships incoming," Elias said quickly. "They found us." Through the glass he saw the royal fleet emerging from hyperspace. 10 ships, bright as suns, surrounding them. Lyra's eyes widened. "Father." A message came through the comms, the king's voice deep and commanding. "Lyra of Valaris, you will return at once. Do not force me to harm the human." Elias clenched his fists. He doesn't understand. Tears welled in Lyra's eyes. "He never will." The royal ships began to close in. "Prepare to be boarded," the voice repeated. Elias looked at her. "If they take me, don't fight them. You can't lose your family because of me." She shook her head firmly. "No, I won't lose you again." Her glow began to rise, brighter than ever before. The air shimmered, vibrating with unseen energy. Elias could feel it in his bones. The same warmth that had healed her now grew into something vast, something cosmic. "Lyra, stop. You'll burn yourself out." She looked at him with tears in her eyes and whispered, "Not if you stay with me." He took her hand, and in that moment their light merged once more. The ship exploded in brilliance, a wave of light so bright it covered the fleet. Every sensor on every royal ship went blind. Systems failed. Power vanished. The fleet floated helplessly in space. When the light faded, the small ship was gone. The king's voice trembled through the silence. "Lyra, what have you done?" Far away, beyond all star charts, Elias and Lyra's ship drifted into the quiet edge of the galaxy. They were alive, hidden, and free, their bond now powerful enough to move through the stars themselves. Lyra looked at him, her glow soft and peaceful. "He'll never understand what we've become." Elias smiled gently. "Maybe one day, he will." Outside, the stars shone brighter, as if blessing their forbidden love in the new light they carried together. Weeks passed in the quiet edges of the galaxy. Lyra and Elias traveled together, exploring worlds no one in the Valar Dominion had ever seen. The human taught her laughter, patience, and courage. She taught him the stars, the songs of her people, and the feeling of light flowing through living veins, but neither could forget home. The palace, the royal family, the weight of duty, it lingered like a shadow behind every glowing star. Finally, Lyra spoke softly one night. "We can't hide forever. My father will send fleets until we are found, and I want him to see what we've done, what we've become." Elias looked at her, worry etched across his face. "Are you sure? You're risking everything, and even your life." She took his hands gently, their glow merging again. "If I stay hidden, my healing means nothing. I want my people to see that what we share is not a danger. It is hope." They returned to Valaris Prime in the small ship that now seemed alive with their combined energy. As the planet grew closer, the royal fleet scrambled. The ships moved to intercept, but no weapon could touch them. The light from Lyra's body and Elias's hand radiated outward, soft but impossibly strong. The king stood on the highest balcony of the palace, his arms folded, watching the approaching ship. His heart ached, torn between anger, pride, and fear. When the ship landed without damage, a hush fell over the crowd. Elias and Lyra stepped out together, hand in hand. Her glow pulsed gently, a light of calm and power. The people stared, the healers whispered, and the council froze. The king's voice was low but steady. "Lyra, you are alive." "Yes, father," she said, her voice strong and warm. "I am alive, and more than that, I am free. Not from you, but from fear." Elias stepped forward. "Your Majesty," he said respectfully, "I only helped her heal. Nothing else. Whatever she has become, and it is because she chose life. She chose hope. And she asked me to be with her." The royal council gasped. Some whispered about human corruption, some about power, but when Lyra raised her hand, the glow spread across the plaza. It was soft at first, then brighter, illuminating every face, every heart. Her father watched closely, expecting danger, but the light was gentle. It did not harm, it healed. Small injuries on guards, faint sicknesses among the crowd, all faded as the energy passed. The queen stepped forward, tears glimmering in her eyes. This is your gift, Lyra?" She nodded. "It's ours," she said, glancing at Elias, "not just mine. Together we can share life, healing, hope. Not just for us, but for everyone." The king's stern face softened. He saw it, the bond between human and princess, something neither species could fully explain, yet impossible to deny. His daughter was alive, strong, whole, and the man who touched her had not only saved her, he had changed what it meant to be Valar. He stepped forward slowly, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You have surpassed my understanding," he said quietly. "Perhaps there is more to life than I have known. You've taught me that, child," Lyra smiled, tears shining. "And you've taught me duty, father. But I've learned something new. Love and hope can coexist with duty. We do not have to choose one over the other." The king looked at Elias, then back at his daughter, and finally bowed slightly. "You are welcome in this palace. You are part of our story now, human." The crowd erupted in whispers and awe, but Lyra and Elias only looked at each other. The universe had stretched wide and tested them, but here they were, alive together, radiant with light. Lyra's glow mingled with Elias's warmth once more, a beacon for every soul in Valaris Prime. And in that moment, everyone understood humans were not weak. Love, courage, and hope could heal even the deepest wounds. For the first time in history, two species stood together, not as ruler and subject, not as healer and patient, but as equals. And the stars themselves seemed to shine brighter in approval.